Welcome to Super Fun Game Review Podcast Go. A look at modern and retro games with a dark sense of humor. Introducing your hosts, Steve.
Well, I'm a wreck now.
Harry.
Put it in my mouth.
Clark.
That man had one testicle and hit home runs, goddammit.
And Joe.
This went off the rails very quickly.
Let's start the show.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of Super Fun Game Review Podcast. Go! Tonight with me, I have Harry.
Is this the distant future of the overturning of Roe v. Wade?
Yikes.
Yikes. Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
Pretty sure making
Jesus.
statements that close to the beginning of an episode might get you demonetized. It does on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Oh, well.
We don't make money
Sorry
anyway.
if the intro music is way longer this week.
Steve.
Your 2 feet fill all them boots.
And Joe.
Oh, I got a present for you.
And I am your host, Clark. I'll take the damage and the goods. I don't break that easily.
Oh, God.
So,
Soothe Steve over here.
if you couldn't tell by Harry's absolutely awful fetus joke, tonight we are going to be covering Death Stranding, the Hideo Kojima game.
This might have been the easiest one to guess based on quips because of that.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yep. Yeah, probably.
A lot of fetuses.
Yeah. There's one.
Feti.
Well, there's one. Feet.
Well, actually, there's a few.
There's
but,
a few,
well,
yeah.
we'll get into it. But first, I'm going to kick to Steve for this ad.
That's going to the ad? You mean the ad for Deep Creek Glassworks?
Deep Creek Glassworks.
2013, you already know, Deep Creek Glassworks has been giving you awesome stuff to use, look at, just enjoy shiny things. So, motherfucker, you need to go check them out.
Get some durable glass for that ass, but not like your actual rectum.
Disclaimer, please do not put things up your rectum.
Well, glass. Don't put glass up your
Don't
butt.
put Tanner's glass up your rectum. If you want to do something else, that's fine. That's on you and in you. Your choice, your body. You do what you want. Otherwise, if you want some cool pendants, ornaments, maybe some wine glasses, beer mugs, Deep Creek Glassworks has you covered. So you can check them out on Instagram, Etsy, Facebook. And when you order, we are going to ship that, not us. Tanner will ship that to you in crush resistant boxes. With free shipping.
We've all developed stuttering problems on this show.
Fuck you, Harry.
And even better, if you use our code SUPERFUN at checkout, you will receive 10% off of your first purchase.
And that code again is super fun.
With
No
about
extra letters.
No extra letters.
Oh,
It's just 20 U's.
I thought it was like 7 S's, maybe about like 9 F's, but that's okay. Either way, go check out deepcreekglassworks.com. Works spelled WORX.
Today.
Okay, let's get into some initial impressions. Actually, before we get into initial impressions, going forward, we're gonna start doing episodes a little differently.
A little bit. Some episodes, yeah.
So, it won't be all, maybe, but it'll be some episodes.
It's our show. We're going to do whatever the fuck we want, but we're going to let you know about it.
Yeah. So some of us are going to be taking breaks on and off for, like a month here or there on the review episodes. And in that role, then, when we record, we're going to be prepared by asking questions, driving different segments, and just generally helping out with some structural things. But also, it's to provide a kind of like
Reprieve.
Yeah, reprieve for us, but also a different perspective of someone that hasn't played the game at all, and then is also
The voice of the listener, essentially. Also.
Yes, kind of, yeah.
Harry, you're the voice tonight. He's the masked singer. Take off the mask. That's an ugly mug.
Oh my God, it's Bob Saget.
So,
Oh my God, Harry's dead.
We have to burn his body before this void out.
yeah. Don't let a BT touch him. He's going into necrosis. All right. Yeah, so going forward, that's just kind of what we're going to be doing, just to avoid some burnout for us. So
It's needed every once in a while.
Yeah.
And, all of you who have listened for a while get it, and we appreciate you for understanding. And, we all leave full, fulfilling lives. I tried.
Steve
tried to
gets filled.
Yeah, I do.
Speak for yourself, Steve.
fully filled.
We'll get around to Morgan's Minute very soon. No.
So, yeah. And with that, let's move into initial impressions. I'm going to kick it off with you, Harry, who has not played the game this month. And, what are your initial impressions of Death Stranding just from someone who hasn't played it, really?
So I assume this game is about 45 hours of looking for Rick Grimes.
Yikes.
No, I've watched a lot of trailers. It looked interesting, a little bit out there, and I also, I heard a lot from the community, and I know quite often it gets referred to as FedEx simulator,
FedEx
or
simulator
something
stuff.
like that. So it kind of makes me think that this is I assume that there's probably a lot of fetch quests in this game. That's at least what I gathered, or going from point A to point B over and over again. That just reading a lot of the comments that I read online, it just seems like that's the type of game.
I mean,
with obstacles in the way, obviously. I'm sure you're traversing a long pathway. I don't know. These are just some of the impressions I got from the internet.
Yeah, FedEx seems way too caring for the environment of this. I would call this Amazon Prime Simulator, because Amazon don't give a shit. Go pee in a bottle.
No, FedEx is much worse.
Yeah, I think FedEx is the worst.
I've
of the
definitely gotten FedEx packages that looked like packages I delivered in this game. They were just covered in rust and looked like shit. About 99% damaged.
I actually shit on your box.
Funny story. I don't mean to tangent too much real quick, but talking about shipping. So a long time ago, I used to order the Warhammer 40K models off of eBay, just already pre-built and everything like that, pre-painted and stuff like that. And I kind of remember getting a tank early on, but it was packaged with Smacks cereal.
I remember that.
Smacks?
Because they didn't have any, I guess, packing peanuts.
I remember you
so they
talking
just
Were the
filled-
models all sticky and shit?
No, but it was definitely filled with cereal just to the brim.
Oh my God.
That's amazing.
You know what you could have
love
done?
I'm for that.
You could have ordered from Deep Creek Glassworks, because that's crush-resistant boxes. And no,
You should have
taken
taken all the models out of it and just filled it with milk. And just
God! Or leave the models in and fill it with milk.
even better.
Little surprise.
That's a spicy game, especially if there's the pewter models in there.
You don't get toys in boxes anymore for cereal.
Sorry, going back to my impressions.
I've got a chain blade stuck in my fucking throat.
It's like the steel Crustios.
But no, there's some weird things. Every trailer I saw featured that baby in the orb.
BB.
So, BB.
Yeah.
Which I thought was weird, and I saw those invisible aliens in a lot of trailers that would just show up out of nowhere. So I mean, it looked like it had intense elements to this game.
It's a very intense game.
So that's the impressions I got. I just never had the interest, I guess, to really dive in. I'm not don't get offended, just using the term, just like a fanboy of Kojima. I'm not one of those.
Son of a bitch.
I
There's
don't
a
follow.
lot of those.
Yeah, well, I know,
Yeah.
and I get it. Like people that are for some reason into the Metal Gear games, I don't understand, but those people exist. Those people.
You're talking to two of them, but literally right now you're talking to two
Well,
of them.
I don't know about that. We don't know how Steve feels about this game yet, so we don't know if he's
He's
a
a
fanboy.
He's a Metal Gear fan, though.
I just want to correct. I wasn't talking to. I was talking at. Just
Yeah.
back up a little bit.
Yeah.
No, we're about to get real fucking close. Real close.
So that's my really sloppy initial impressions. Just little pieces all over the place.
Fitting.
Just pulling thoughts of the game out of the clouds.
Yeah.
Well, you are a sloppy bear, so
I'm down for
it
it.
works out, yeah.
All right. How about you, Steve?
All right. So hearing that Kojima was making a game that wasn't Metal Gear really just did pique some interest of, okay, what are we going to look at? And then it was Norman Reedus. I'm like, that's interesting. I will say when the game came out, it wasn't something that immediately grabbed my attention. But with that starting to play and get into the game, you know, it starts off just a little slow, but then you start to get the feel of his games and like Kojima, like, and where it starts getting fucking weird. And then I'm sure it just gets weirder. Disclaimer, I did not completely finish the game, but I still intend to from where I got with it. So at least, you know, that was enough to be excited to see what it's about, and it being a completely different type of title, or at least I perceived it to be. And yeah, that was my initial impression.
Joe?
Oh, man.
Initial impressions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a lot of the same thoughts as Harry, honestly. I mean, they announced this game like what felt like 2 years before it released or whatever, right? You know, so huge hype around it before it launched. So obviously, there was no way to avoid it. If you're into gaming, right, it's going to show up in your feed. You're going to learn that. You're going to see the trailer, like, you know, the other shit. But yeah, also thought, you know, package delivery simulator, you know, and then honestly, the Norman Reedus thing was probably the biggest turnoff for me, because I was like, I saw him in the trailer, and like he spoke in the trailer, and like you kind of got his vibe, and I was like, this is his Walking Dead character. Like that's it. Like he can't.
From the trailers, I can definitely see you.
Yeah.
You
and I was
that.
just like, I didn't like him in the show. Like, I'm definitely not into this now. Like,
Turns out it's just Norman Reedus.
yeah,
Fuck,
I was
that's
like,
him.
oh, he doesn't have range. Is kind of how I thought about it. It's just that's
You're
how
not
I
wrong.
felt. That's
Yeah.
how I felt.
Which is more of just to the listeners, it's more of a spike against the actor than it is the game.
Oh yeah,
At this point,
Yeah.
at least.
That's 100% a barb
Yeah.
at Norman Reedus.
Yeah, totally.
Look at my
But like I
wispy
said,
mustache.
that was honestly the biggest turnoff for me.
Yeah.
So I never intended on playing it.
All right, fair enough. Everyone knows that listens to this podcast knows that I'm like super fanboy for Kojima stuff.
No shit.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
I like the three-prong approach he has to game development in general. Like the idea of like the meta game, the game, and then the story. Because a lot of the times, and even in this game sometimes, you know, like the story and what's going on and like the meta game have nothing to do with the character at points in this game. So I've always liked kind of like that like layered approach to game making. I think it's what makes his games amazing. When the trailer dropped at E3, like one of the last E3s, I was completely like, what the fuck is this? They released it under a weird studio name. And I'll get a little bit more into that. But like as soon as like the trailer came out, I had to know like more. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like that initial trailer, I don't know if you guys saw the initial trailer where it's just like the beach and Norman Reedus is like naked holding the baby disappears, and then he walks along the beach. There's all the dead things. There's the ooze, and then he just sees the 5 BTs. And that's like, that was the initial trailer, and that was it for like 3 months. With a low roar song playing.
That just gives you a what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it
like,
gives you this
feeling,
total like what the fuck is going on. Well, it was really awesome because when it initially released, nobody knew it was a Kojima game. people started piecing it together because of Norman Reedus's involvement, the fact that like some of the geography that was featured in the video kind of was nearing Iceland, and it was pretty well documented that like Hideo Kojima was like going to Iceland a lot during his time between Konami and creating his own studio, and that's also where Low Roar's from. So it all of these things started stacking up, and it eventually came out on the second trailer that it was Hideo Kojima. It was Kojima Productions. It was his new thing. Sony was backing all of it. It was fucking incredible. But like I thought it was like incredibly fascinating from the beginning. I was completely enthralled in trying to figure out the mysteries of the first trailer all the way through beating the end of the game.
They got you right off the bat.
Yeah, right off the bat. Like I bought the game the day it came out, had the collector's edition on a fucking like wish list on Amazon, so I got a notification and I ended up buying that without the game in it, which was awesome because it saved a bunch of money that I didn't need to buy the game a second time. But like, it's just incredible. It was just like the rollout of it I thought was incredible.
Yeah.
So let's strap our BB pod on and head into development.
Game development.
Real quick question to kick off.
Oh, sure.
Development. I am curious what Kojima Productions is working on currently.
Death Stranding 2.
Really?
Yes.
You're moving right into it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. He's got even more people involved with it. The development of this game is more about the story of Kojima after Konami than anything else. So I'm just going to like briefly recap that as development. So he had this giant falling out with Konami. They didn't want him to direct any more games, write any more games, be a part of any more games. They basically were shutting down. They haven't made many games since.
Street Fighter just came out, right?
That's
Is that
Capcom.
Right.
Oh
Capcom,
God!
yeah.
Remember that Metal Gear Survive?
Yes.
Yeah.
That
So
it's a fucking travesty.
So
It was.
Kojima was involved in idea alone for that, but not any of the execution of that game. So they fucked it up. They fucked it up hardcore.
it didn't need to be a Metal Gear game.
It didn't. It didn't. It shouldn't have been. Actually, there are some elements of Metal Gear Survive in Death Stranding in the gameplay. Some aspects of it.
Kind of. We'll get
Strong
to that
start.
one.
No, but here's the thing. It's in Kojima's game, it's done correctly. In Survive, the game is just completely annoying. However, certain things like finding other people's delivery cargo and things like that, like finding materials out in the world and them dropping in from making connections, that's kind of what Kojima took that idea from Survive and brought it. Like, do you remember when there'd be like, oh, there's a storm and it dropped a bunch of fucking packages over here? Yeah. In Survive. Death Stranding does that as well.
A little more natively.
Way more natively.
Yeah.
It's done well in this. It actually makes sense in this.
It's a community.
Yes,
Which is awesome.
Yes, that's the metagame.
And I'll get to that one. So yeah.
Konami fires him or he leaves. It's kind of like a weird. It's still under NDA, so no one really knows exactly what happened.
You're fired. I quit. Who gives a shit? You're not here.
Basically, shots were fired from both Konami when it sounds like they fired him, and it sounds like from Kojima's side that he quit.
Right.
Over creative differences.
Who knows? We just know what actually happened. There was a separation.
So he left.
Them separated.
Like my parents.
So he left, and when Kojima left, he had basically every single like high-level AAA publisher approach him to come work for them.
Fuck yeah.
He had contracts lined up basically from every single company in the fucking world that makes video games. And he was like, no, I'm actually going to like do some soul searching and stuff, and I'm taking basically 2 years, and I'm just going to travel around to different studios, make friends with the connections that I already have, and stuff like that. He ended up landing at Guerrilla.
Okay.
That's how he got hooked up with Sony.
Okay.
So he landed at Guerrilla, who makes Horizon Zero Dawn, I believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was looking at their engine for Horizon. He was like, this is incredible. And they were like, well, you're our friend. If you decide to make a game, we can help you understand how to use our engine, and you can use our engine. So he starts building Kojima Productions. Builds Kojima Productions. starts hiring a bunch of talent. He basically puts out like, "Hey, I'm trying to make a game." A bunch of his celebrity friends, a bunch of really talented people all come together to make Kojima Productions. Rents out a studio right near Guerrilla, and they start production on Death Stranding. They come out with the trailer. They start dropping these trailers that have all these different people in it, like Guillermo del Toro, Mads Mikkelsen, Norman Reedus,
Surprise.
Jane Fonda, like all of these fucking
Kind of like
celebrities.
Call of Duty does and shit like that.
Yes,
Kind of, where it's just like,
Yeah.
oh,
yeah. You're like, oh shit, yeah,
Yeah.
like so.
But
It's
people
just
with
You're like, Jonah
notoriety,
Hill, what the fuck?
people with notoriety that are like, no, this actually sounds like a fun project. I
Yeah.
just want to do that. People that don't have to do it, they
Yeah.
just do it because they want to.
like the fact that Guillermo del Toro is in this at all,
Seriously.
in an acting role, is
Right.
incredible.
And not just like a very, very small part where it's like a
he's
cameo.
a huge character in this. Like he has a massive part in this whole fucking game, and he's like a highly acclaimed, like very artistic horror director, and like like. So he makes this like ensemble cast of like all of these like really high profile people, and then he puts out a blockbuster of a fucking
Do
game.
you
in
think
Death
it's a little
Stranding.
bit of like a
Fuck you?
little fuck you to Konami? It's like
100% is.
Look what I can do. Look what I can do. But it's almost like not that he had anything to prove, but it's like look what you lost. You see the pool?
He pitched Death Stranding to Konami, and this is kind of my theory and kind of like what's like slowly leaked out from different people, like especially a lot of people that left Konami to go work with Kojima. It seems like he pitched the idea of Death Stranding, and they were like, yeah, but you have this budget to do it, and he was like, I can't do that with this, and that's kind of where the rift started between about him leaving.
Money.
Whereas Sony was like, here's a blank check. Do what you need to do.
Because it's Sony and it's money. They have a lot of it.
Yeah, and they trust the process. I mean, like,
Yeah, they're like, we hired a money printing machine. That's basically what Sony did.
Basically, they were like, okay, Kojima is just going to like double, triple down on whatever we invest in him.
Yeah.
So just give him a blank check, let him do what he's going to do. And I mean, he definitely delivered. There's 3 different versions of this fucking game. There was a director's cut that came out, like, and it's been on PS4 and PS5 now, like, and PC. Like, it's had these rolling releases now.
Yeah.
Like, they've made their money easily enough to make Death Stranding too. So.
Do we have figures by any chance?
Yeah, I was wondering. So, do we have dates?
Well,
some figures
I was
like
almost hoping for a comparison of budget versus sales. I don't know.
I don't know.
if that's-
It's hard to actually get like what the budget of
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
for games. It's like sales, we can track that, but it's not necessarily like
Well, no,
ads out
I'm
there
just
as,
curious
like,
because I
movies.
mean, this is his first.
venture
I
on
would
his
have
own.
I would have guessed that this would have lost money in the sense that like all the money to start up the studio, get situated, try to get all this massive talent. I don't know. I feel like the startups, like starting a new business, like the first couple of years
Oh
are going to
yeah, you're not making
in
money
a-
the first few years.
be so
easily.
I my guess is that they would have lost money on this, but have prospects for the future.
Yeah. This isn't just a brand new. Well, I mean, in a way, it's a new startup for it, but it's not like this is a brand new entity or name coming into the field. This is someone who has been established since the 90s, who is now making a venture 20, 25 years later, like out on their own, who has already made those connections and, possibly having like Guerrilla at his back saying, hey, we can already skip some of this process.
I have some dollar figures here for you.
Yeah,
Show me that money,
I
Joe.
got some too.
The PC release alone generated $27 million.
Oh, damn.
The PC release.
Just the PC.
And that came out like 4 years after the console
Yes,
release.
and that came out after Kojima stated in May of 2020, which the PC release then followed, I think a month later, that the game had already sold enough to recoup the entire development cost and start turning profits.
Check that out.
Almost
Yeah.
a year after it was released, but
Yeah.
that's worldwide. And then they started, then there's
That's called proof of concept.
Yes, that's 100% proof of concept. And it also secured funding for his second project, which is going to be Death Stranding 2.
Yeah.
So it did a ton. Like, it did a ton. Like, they're saying that, the PC release alone generated $27 million in profit. So
Good shit.
yeah, it's huge. You know?
All right, but let's stay on Death Stranding topic. We went off on a tangent, which again you did say it's a lot of
There's a lot of
Kojima-
strands
just-
to this game.
It just goes to say, like, he's been working on this for, like, ever, and, like, he really put, like, time into it. Like, I think that's kind of why it still works in development.
He left Konami in 2016 or 2015. 2016 is where he dropped the first trailer. And it was something that he did with a group of 5 people. They made the trailer and motion capped Norman Reedus with 5 people, and then they got everything else.
Yeah.
After that. And then in 2019 is when the game came out. Right before COVID, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was like a forecursor for COVID, which is really wild. Again, this is the long line of Kojima predicting things in games and then them coming true. It's weird.
I'm not
it's
looking
a real
forward to this
if
future.
you ever have the time, there's like a 15-minute video on YouTube to check out of Kojima predicting things 10, 15 years in advance in like Metal Gear and
Or at least
Death Stranding kind of predicted some things too, so you're like, oh god. Yeah, like the nano machines and stuff like that, we're talking about now. That's been something in his canon that he's talking about. Anyway,
Thankfully, you can go on the DARPA website and they tell you a good amount of stuff on there.
did you guys have any more questions about the development of this? That's the key things.
When did it come out?
I said 2019?
Yeah, we discussed it before COVID and all that jazz.
Jesus
PC release a year later.
All right, let's fabricate a reverse tricycle and get into the story.
Story.
Death Stranding is a hard game to kind of coherently talk about the story in a linear fashion because there's a lot of stuff that happens at the end that inform decisions in the beginning of the game. If that makes sense?
Yeah.
There's like some cyclical stuff that happens.
Yeah.
You want to give us the Spark Notes? Cliff
I
Notes?
can try.
Synopsis? Okay.
So basically, the main character played by Norman Reedus, his name is Sam Porter Bridges. His mother is the president of the United States. She passes away and tasks him with rebuilding the chiral network across the U.S. So that's the main drive of the game, and to retrieve his sister Amelia from the West Coast, starting off in the East Coast. So as you're going through and making these deliveries, there is an overall like you're actually just trying to get west and expand the chiral network because you need the chiral network all the way through the US to be able to fabricate, to be able to connect everybody back to like basically like the internet.
It establishes trade routes and stuff like that.
Yeah, it establishes everything. You're basically reconnecting the entire United States. And to go find your sister who is going to succeed their mother as the president. Just from the sound of that, it sounds like it's going to be easy. Well, it's not. There's also the fact that, like, basically you're in a giant extinction event at the time. It's called the Death Stranding. Somewhere along the line, the afterlife starts pushing into real life. It's through the rain and the clouds and chiralium. You see these things called BTs. And basically, a BT is an already dead person. It's their soul or Ka in the game. They refer to it as like the Ka, the Ha and Ka. The Ha is the body, the Ka is the soul. So you see all of these BTs, and if they touch organic living matter like a human, not like grass or something like that, because they actually can't touch that stuff anyway, because of how they appear. But if they touch living organic matter, they cause a void out, which is basically like a nuclear bomb that goes off and it just vaporizes a section of land, everything, and it's just a giant fucking crater. The difference for Sam is has a disease called Dooms, and that allows him to, if he dies, his Ka can swim in the ocean back to his body, and he basically revives.
Like he's reincarnated again.
Yes, he's reincarnated. They call it he has a disease called Dooms, and he's a repatriate. That's what they call that process. So that's kind of Sam as a character. He's deathless. He can't really die. On the way to the west, he's given a BB pod unit, which he nicknames Lou eventually.
Oh, he does give it a name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yay.
He nicknames it Lou. Every time he plugs into Lou, he sees visions of what Lou sees.
Yeah, Lou is a fetus in a jar strapped to...
He's a baby. No, it's a baby. It's a full...
It is a
it's
baby.
an actual
They're
baby.
stillborn, basically.
Yeah, they're stillborn in the thing.
But alive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's a stillborn and it's half living, half dead, they can see the dead. So when he plugs into BB, he can see the BTs. That's how it works. It's
There we
creating
go.
a connection between the living and the dead.
Yeah.
And that's why he plugs into the stillborn baby.
And he's adorable.
Yes. Yeah, you can if he gets really nervous or something like that, you can actually take him off and you can rock him so
Yeah.
he calms down, because what happens is if the BB gets too stressed while you're out in the field, from falling, fighting BTs or fighting mules, which are the
Walking through deep water.
walking through deep water, it just shuts off and then you can't see BTs and it becomes a real fucking nightmare to get through areas.
It's like a kid who's like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to do this anymore. I'm just going to
It just shuts off and just says caution.
We'll talk about that more in gameplay.
Yeah. Oh man, there's so much in this game. There's so much that I want to cover, but I don't know what's going to actually be interesting enough to cover. Anyway, okay, basically, as you travel across the West, Deadman, who's played by Guillermo del Toro,
Die Hard Man. Oh, no, Dead
No,
Man.
that's the other
That's
guy.
right.
Yeah.
That's the other
Dead Man.
guy. Yeah.
he starts to
The names.
suspect Die Hardman, who is basically the interim president while you're traveling across to get Amelia. He starts to suspect that he's not telling the truth about everything that's going on.
Surprise.
Yes. So as you're going through, Die Hardman kind of starts giving you time without your cufflink that connects you to the chiral network. He starts telling you here, I've disconnected you from the network. We need to have a conversation. And he starts telling you about his suspicions about Die Hardman not being truthful and not being who he says he is. Die Hardman wears a mask. No one knows actually who he is under the mask.
I can't get over the fact his name is Die Hard.
I know.
I wish it was
I
played
know.
by Bruce Willis. I really do.
Yeah.
I was
Oh, it's
also...
Die Hard, man.
Die
Yeah,
Hard.
it's Die Hard, man.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
I mean, there's a reason for his name,
It's...
which is it's just a little one-off thing of why they call him that. But
But I know.
basically, as you continue through, suspicions about Die Hardman raise. Fragile, who is another porter that works for a different services. You work for Bridges. She works for Fragile Express.
You worked for FedEx. She's UPS.
Yeah, I got that.
Basically.
Okay.
When you get to the Midwest, you find out all about this terrorist organization ran by a guy named Higgs, who
There isn't enough already going on.
know,
Let's just
right?
throw a fucking terrorist.
That's been
narratively it makes sense.
Pretty much.
All
that's
right,
been known.
sure, go ahead.
So basically, the terrorist organization they know how to start the actual extinction. They have figured out exactly how to start the extinction. So they're trying to get to Amelia as well, because Amelia is what they call in the game an extinction entity. So she is kind of the key to either saving America or triggering the end of the world. Fragile used to work with the terrorist organization, unbeknownst to her, and ended up almost blowing up. Well, they ended up blowing up a few of the knots, which is what the cities are
cities.
called. Yeah.
Yeah.
They ended up blowing up a bunch of them using her access to get there. She feels terrible about it, and she wants revenge on Higgs. So she's decided to help you because your path basically is going to cross with Higgs at some point.
Is there a glossary in this game?
Dude.
Yeah,
There
There's
is.
a giant
Yeah, I'm
index.
sure-
There's a giant
Let's
index.
talk about it in gameplay.
It's everything has to have a keyword. It seems.
So
It is a Kojima game, to be fair.
yeah, it's a Kojima game.
There's a lot.
So as you get I'm skipping over tons of stuff. I just want everyone to know.
I feel like you need to.
There's a lot of story in
So
this
there's
game.
a lot of story in this
We're
game.
getting towards the end, so we need to.
Yeah. So you get to basically the last knot before you can go to Amelia and save her.
Okay.
And you start to kind of figure out that, like, okay, Higgs is going to be there. I'm going to have, like, the showdown with Higgs. And I'm going to need to meet Amelia on the beach. She keeps talking about, like, I'll meet you on the beach and all this stuff. Fragile uses a beach as well. Fragile uses her beach to teleport. The beach, quote unquote, is where people transfer to the afterlife. It is a place in between life and death.
So purgatory,
basically.
Yeah.
Okay. So this makes a lot more sense now.
So Fragile, basically, when she uses her like power to teleport, she is essentially dying, going to her beach, and then coming back in a different spot on.
So going from alive to dead to alive again.
Well, alive to purgatory to alive,
unquote.
still in a different location.
And it doesn't pass time.
Okay.
Like, time doesn't pass. Like,
well,
while she's on the beach.
It's warped. The beach time dilation is warped in general. Like, the time
There's
is
a whole
either
bunch of craziness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The beaches.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So
Beaches be crazy.
So you have to get to the beach.
Yeah.
You need Fragile to get you to Amelia's beach. She eventually does, and you find out that Higgs is already there. Has Amelia in like this giant fucking spider web of like the black ooze that's underneath all the BTs and why they can't touch the earth. Higgs basically breaks the fourth wall, talks directly to the player and says like, oh, this is like the boss fight. This is like the end of the game. This is the game. This is going to be game over for you because you can't repatriate here.
He pulls a Psycho Mantis.
Yeah, basically, he does the thing that Kojima is like most famous for, which is like the Psycho Mantis thing, talking directly to the player. So once you beat Higgs, Amelia is different. She's just not the same. Fragile leaves, and Amelia's like, "Oh, I can take care of Sam. Like I can take him back." And then she doesn't. So you're stuck on Amelia's beach. You're like basically stuck in purgatory. And then you get exposition on all of the rest of the game. Again, I'm skipping over things. There's all about like the visions that you're seeing of BB's dad and things like that. We're gonna get to that.
Don't worry.
You see a guy named Clifford Unger. Anytime you plug into the BB, it's played by Mads Mikkelsen, who you also fight several times in a weird like temporal area. You get sucked up into basically a chiral storm, and you go to his beach, which is different battlefields from World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War.
Huh.
He was never alive for any of them, but those are his beaches. Yeah, it's really weird, but you go fight him. He's kind of like another boss, basically. There's a bunch of things that you find out while you're stuck on the beach.
Okay.
With Amelia. You find out that Amelia has never left the beach. She's never been outside of the beach, ever.
She's always been there. So
she's
like
always been there.
All the cutscenes that go back and all of your experiences with her where it's only at a beach, she's just always been there. And
she has always been there because Bridget, that is Bridget's Ka. That's her soul. Is stuck on the beach as Amelia. They told and raised Sam that was his sister so that he would have a tie. They manipulate Sam to go try to retrieve Bridget's soul, but the body is dead. So once the body is dead, the soul is just like, I'm going to destroy everything.
that's why she's been the same the entire game.
Yes,
Shit.
Amelia is completely ageless the entire game. So
Well, how much time passes for
you
lot.
see her with Sam as a boy, and Sam as a 30-year-old
man.
man.
He's like 7 in one
And
scene.
she
Looks
doesn't
exactly
she
the
doesn't
same.
age a second.
She really doesn't, Harry. It's
So and that's played by Jane Fonda. So you find out that Amelia isn't actually your sister. You also find out that Bridget's not actually your mother.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it
Stop
gets
it. Just stop.
it goes off the rails.
By the way, Jane Fonda's still alive.
Okay.
Clark's like, it's just now going off the rails.
Yeah, it's now it's going off the rails.
Okay.
You have one last vision of Clifford Unger, and you're going through.
And that's the BB Visions?
Yeah, the
That's
BB Visions.
Dad, that Clifford is the dad in the BB Visions?
Yes.
Okay.
But you have an out-of-body experience this time. You're not viewing it as BB.
Okay.
So you see Clifford trying to save BB's life, get it away and get it out of the place.
Yeah.
You come to find out that Die Hardman worked with Clifford Unger as his lieutenant to Clifford being like the sergeant.
Okay.
Bridget orders Die Hardman to shoot Clifford, and in an effort to protect himself, ends up shooting Clifford through the heart and destroys the BB pod with the BB. Like the baby gets killed. Bridget has an absolute fucking like full-blown like maddening scream because that was her like the BB technology was going to be her thing.
That BB was her BB. Like her baby, like her baby project.
The BB washes up on the beach. There's Amelia, picks up the BB, says, "You don't need to die yet," drops it in the water. You return, and it's Sam.
Oh,
so
fuck.
Clifford Unger. So all these visions that you're having the entire time, where you think it's BB, it's actually
You're Sam.
Yeah, BB's actually giving you back your memories as like a fetus, basically. So that's why Sam's Doom's power, quote unquote, is to repatriate, because Amelia gave him the ability to come back to life.
Because he was already dead, and then he came back, and then he was...
Correct.
Oh,
So
that
she
is a
casts him
Kojima story.
Yeah. So she casts him into the water. He comes back. You realize, like, holy shit, like, Clifford was my dad. My mom died because Clifford ended up shooting her to save her... Well, not save her life, but to just save her from torture and stuff like that at the hands of Bridget. So Bridges seems to be kind of like the bad guy at this point.
I knew it.
It gets so basically then Amelia gives you a choice. She's like, the extinction's going to happen whether you want it to or not.
Okay.
I can walk into the water and you'll never see me again. And the extinction will happen thousands of years from now, but you guys have a chance to build and prepare for it later. Or I can just end it now, and you can stay here with me on the beach forever. Sam chooses to... He runs into the water after her, hugs her, and she's like, okay, I will give humanity time. And then she pushes him down into the water to repatriate one final time, and then her entire beach explodes, which is the link between the Death Stranding extinction event and Earth. So you repatriate... You're not really seeing BTs anymore. All the activity dies down for it, and then you start to realize that like there's something wrong with BB.
No.
Every time you plug him in, you're making your way back to the east now. You stop the extinction. Like you stop the extinction and stuff. As you're walking back, I've left out complete characters at this point.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Just keep going. Don't shut up yet.
So you're traveling back east. You find out something's wrong with BB. It's not connecting to its still mother anymore. Back at Bridges East.
Yeah.
You make it all the way back there, and Die Hardman's like, your unit's fucked. He's like, it's done. BB's dead. Not gonna come back. And then he gives you the unit, and he's like, you have to run and put it in the incinerator. You have to.
And then it's going to cause a void out.
Huh?
Otherwise, it's going to
cause a void out.
Oh, fuck no.
And then he's like, this is the last time I'm going to do this for you. Takes your cuff link that links you to the chiral network offline. And he's like, I can't tell you to disobey a direct order, but you might be able to resuscitate BB if you break it out of the chamber, but there's a 70% chance that if you break it out, it's just going to catastrophically fail. So Sam...
30% good.
Sam straps BB on. They play one of the fucking saddest songs I have ever fucking heard that was directly made for this because there's references to the beach and Death Stranding in it. It's fucking beautiful. It's one of the best moments in the game. You run up to the incinerator from Bridges East, and you go in, you set the pod down. Sam takes off his fucking cufflink, puts it in the incinerator, presses the button, close chapter. Psych, opens the chapter back up. Sam grabs the fucking BB pod off of the incinerator.
What a twist!
Sam grabs the BB pod off of the incinerator, busts it open, and this part actually made me like really anxious because he struggles a lot to resuscitate BB and starts panicking, and like him literally doing like I know
Finger compressions.
Yeah,
for a bit.
finger compressions.
Shut up! I'm gonna cry. Just keep telling me.
Rubbing the feet and then like rubbing the chest, and like I know all this stuff because I had a baby. Right. You know what I mean?
Did
like
you out of your vagina?
No, but like this is all stuff.
Congratulations.
This is all stuff that you have to like know when you have a kid is like how to resuscitate them if there's something
infant
wrong.
CPR is not fun.
No, it's not. It's actually terrifying.
It is.
It's terrifying.
Their ribs are so fragile.
So he's like doing all this stuff, and like it just does not look like it's working. And he throws BB up on his shoulder, and he just starts bawling his eyes out because he's like, yeah, this is fucked. BB ends up like waking up just at that moment and like starts cooing and stuff. And Sam and BB basically walk off into the sunset, not connected to the chiral network anymore, and that's the end of that.
All right,
like that's the end of the game.
I need to finish this game so I can cry because just talking about it, it's just like, yeah, no, that's.
I'm okay. Just a little disclaimer for me. I'm sorry if you've played the game and I left out one of your favorite parts or one of your favorite characters. I know I left out a few people. I know I didn't get into the whole Higgs Fragile dynamic because there's a whole off section of that, which is really interesting, which is where my quote's from. Basically, the whole reason that Fragile...
He's going to tell you about it anyway.
I'm just gonna... Yeah, I am. I'm going to go into it now because I couldn't find it in like the actual like story synopsis.
But also at the same time, if he left something out of this very intensive, in-depth storyline, you're okay. You'll make it.
Gives you, and if you didn't play it, it gives you a reason to go play it because there's a lot.
Yeah.
It's like I need.
If
to,
any of the aspects of this game, like all the different like death and extinction and like the hard science behind all these different extinction events, they go into that with another character that I didn't fucking mention at all, but his name's fucking Heartman. Heartman, yeah,
like heart, like my
yeah.
chest.
So you got Heartman.
You have
Die
Hardman, and then you have Heartman.
Heartman.
Who's in charge of naming?
Are we playing Mega Man right now?
Heartman's-
I'm Scissor Man.
Hartman's whole reason that he's called Heartman is because his heart fails every 21 minutes, and he gets to go to the beach,
right.
and he walks on different people's beaches because he's searching for his family.
Yeah, he dies for like 3 minutes, and like it auto resuscitates him, and he like is, yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. So he lives in like a padded fucking science lab, and every 20 minutes it goes off, and it just induces cardiac arrest. He walks for 20 minutes, and then it resuscitates him back, and he comes back to life. It's fucking wild.
I'm sure that doesn't have any kind of wear or tear on his body.
Oh, it's absolutely destroying his heart.
Oh yeah.
But
that's why he's Heartman.
But he started like doing the math, and he's like been to like 256,000 beaches, different beaches, looking for.
It's another way to say I've died 256,000 times.
Yeah, basically.
Fucking Red Sanford. Elizabeth, I'm coming for you. Oh, I'm back. Never mind.
Yeah. So. Fragile and Higgs, it's just interesting. You find out that like the rain in the world now, because of the extinction event happening, causes what's called timefall, and when it gets on something,
ages whatever it touches.
It ages whatever it touches.
Yeah.
So
you're walking around, and you'll be walking through, and the timefall starts, and as you're walking, like on the ground, you'll see just like dirt, and then a plant like sprout. And then die.
Yeah, and then withers and then dies, like as you're walking past it.
And then it's also going to like deteriorate your vehicles and your
cargo.
packages.
It just slowly destroys your cargo and stuff like that.
It does like your skin, like your whole
your skin will age. So
right,
basically,
that's kind of gameplay-ish.
Higgs and Fragile, real quick. Basically, Fragile finds out what Higgs is doing, and Higgs is like, well, I have a bomb here and it's going to go off in 20 minutes. Strips her out of her suit, so she's literally in a tank top and her underwear, and puts a fucking mask on her face so that her face doesn't get fucked up by the time fall, and hands her the fucking briefcase of the nuke. He's like, you want to save these people so bad? There you go. Snaps his fingers, calls in a bunch of fucking time fall, and she just runs as quick as she fucking can to get away from one of the Knot cities with a bomb. And that's why Fragile, when you see her, she like takes her glove off and she has like the hands of like an 80-year-old woman, but she looks like younger than all of us. Like she looks younger. Mm-hmm. But like she got really fucked up through that whole process, and that was her whole thing.
I'll take a flashback.
Yeah, like that's a flashback to her and Higgs when she found out.
Back at the time. Gotcha.
And then that's when she says, like, I'll take the damage from the rain and the goods, the bomb, and go. Because she had the option to just join them as well, since she had a very...
That would be a very confusing handy.
It's like,
it would be.
You're pretty, but... I've been sitting in a hot tub for 2 hours. It's like, oh...
That's what I have to say about. There's another there's another
so
whole
much
tangent.
I feel like I know you're excited, but I feel like we need to push forward a little bit.
I just want to say I can't get into Mama's story because it's like super fucking sad, but it is fucking devastating. Anyway,
okay. So Harry,
so an analogy of what I just heard.
We don't need an analogy. If you have questions, though,
no,
go for it. Harry.
It seems conceptually too heavy. Like, so if you take your general idea, let's just, I don't know, The Matrix, for example. You have this whole, we're living in a digital world kind of thing, and then there's some backstory of how that all came to be. But that's like, it's not too conceptually layered. This seems extremely layered to the point where I could see how some people might think it's too layered.
So how it works, though, like, I could see in most games, yes. Like, there's a lot of long games we play, right? But, like, a lot of it's gameplay, and a lot of it doesn't have a lot of substance, right? This has, in my opinion, too much substance, right? Like, as far as the story, right? But it tells it in a very good way where you're not just, like... It's not just overwhelming, right? It's a lot of it. Right, you'll be sitting there for a while sometimes, but at the same time, like, they tell it in a good way, so it like sticks, and it doesn't feel like there's a fuck ton. Like, it doesn't feel like season 1 of Game of Thrones. You know what I mean?
True.
Where you're like, there's 27 different characters. I don't know what the fuck is happening. There's so many time shifts. There's all this different. Like, it doesn't do that, right? It piecemeals it in like a route. They did it in a great way.
Yeah, the pacing of that all that information is done really well.
So
microdosing.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's not so much where the game itself or the gameplay is the focal point, but the gameplay is more of
the vehicle
for the story and being able to tell it
100%.
And then even though it may seem a little drawn out, but that may just be a tool to kind of like make you feel closer to it with like the certain runs that you're doing, where I'll say like the first time where it's just like transporting cargo or something else, you transport people. Like you have a person just kind of like within a little bag strapped to your back.
Like a timefall wrap.
Yeah.
They have like special cargo bag for a human.
And that isn't so much where it's like, okay, well, I need to run like 1,000 meters northwest to deliver this. As you're running, the story is unfolding as you're making your delivery, or like going from one city to another to really bring it together. Where, I don't feel like this isn't a gameplay game. It's just more, here's how I'm going to tell a story to you, but I'm going to put you as Norman Reedus to do it.
Then the systems that they do have in place for the gameplay, I thought it was interesting.
Do we want to just move there?
Do you guys have any other questions about story? Or do you guys want to discuss anything about story?
I don't know if I really have many things to discuss because only getting up to a certain point of the game and just having like feelings about where this may go, they've been reaffirmed or they've been affirmed. I'll just say that. And then there's some more twists along the way where I don't feel it would be right for me to like ask more about it because I want to experience it.
Okay.
But at least just getting like the overall scope and perspective of what you gave, and I think the key points, I would just for myself like to let it lie where it is.
All right.
So, but that's me. So I don't want to get in anybody's way if they have any questions or anything else.
Do you have any questions about the story?
No, that was
Anything
hard to
that-
process, honestly. Just getting the summary there.
Yeah, it's that was the thing. Like when I was sitting there like trying to like write a synopsis, I was like, I can't do this. I have to actually just say it because I'm not going to be able to write this down. I have trouble doing that. Like where I'm like, okay, there's this really complex thing, and I'm trying to write it down. I can't do that. I have to just,
simplify it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, the game is super fucking complex, but again, that 20-minute distillation of what the game actually is.
20 minutes is being conservative.
I don't know how long I was ranting for, honestly.
give it a
I just
go.
kind of blacked out and was like,
He did. Saw his eyes roll back. Like, I've never seen the whites of your eyes so much.
but yeah, I tried my best. Don't hate me for the
that's
Yeah,
fine.
and if you do, we'll
explanation
hunt
of
you
the
down
story.
at your home. We have all of your IP addresses.
Fair enough.
Joe, do you have any story input?
No, like I said, I think so. Some of my story-related comments are actually more of the gameplay. I think.
Okay. I feel like a lot of it lays in like gameplay, even though we just said the gameplay is the vehicle.
Yeah,
but there's still stuff.
You still have to play the game. Like you
Yeah,
still
yeah,
have to
yeah,
get
yeah.
to point A to point B.
There's
to
still
get
Metal
the-
Gear Solid substance in that.
Yeah.
So I work that in.
Yeah. All right. Let's visit our beach and hop out into gameplay.
Gameplay.
So, gameplay.
Do we address the elephant in the room first?
Do it.
Yeah.
Package simulator controversy talk. Bashings. It's a big part of the gameplay. I think we
is.
should probably just knock that part out.
It is.
It is.
And this is where I will bring up Morgan's Corner.
Yeah.
It's like when
Morgan's
she's
Minute.
Morgan's Minute, Morgan's
Got
Corner.
a whole nother corner.
I know.
You should give her more than a corner, Steve. Jesus Christ.
It's gotta keep them. Never mind.
You know what? She's got the kitchen.
Yeah, she does. Kitchen and a bakery. Congratulations. I don't need a dining room. She doesn't listen. Either way, anyway, she would. Whenever she would come through and I was playing this game, she's like, "Oh, are you playing Dark Futurama again?" It's like, "Yeah, yep. I am a very wispy Philip J. Fry making deliveries."
I'll say this: like a lot of people hopped on the whole like, oh, it's a walking simulator, oh, it's a package delivery simulator, and like, yes, you do like deliver packages in the game, but I don't think that's where the gameplay ends necessarily. There's a lot more to the game as you get further in.
Which I think was a good point that you made when we brought up Metal Gear Survivor. And we were talking about some of the aspects of, I think, a lot of like world building in itself, because you can make structures
Yes.
and whatnot. And then having it's not really an option, but it was there with other people who were playing like kind of at the same time. So if you
Yes.
made a structure, you gotta give. You gotta give.
Yeah.
You can only
gotta
build
give.
so much, but it can show you more of other players' stuff. So it behooves
Right.
everyone to build.
Yeah. So
Yep.
if you participate within the community, the community is also going to provide back, whether it be the bridges that go over certain spans, the jumps, online vehicle storage, where maybe
Yep.
you're in a rough spot. It's like, I don't know. It's like, I have a long way to go. I don't want to fucking walk this.
What does my fellow man have for me? Like, oh, cool. Like someone from another game put their reverse trike at this station for anyone to take. Like,
Right.
but it'll still be there for them. But if you store it there, everyone can use it. So
Yeah.
if you're in a rough spot, like you were saying, and you get to a place and you're like, fuck, I have nothing. You have something.
Yeah.
You have something to continue on. Like,
Which I really like that aspect as well, because it kind of took a single player game and in a way still kind of made it a multiplayer game.
Yeah.
You weren't playing directly with other people, but there was still that interaction between like your own worlds and planes and whatnot.
So I didn't find this out until way late in the game, and I wish I would have known earlier. So Steve, this will be useful for you. Joe, I know you're probably not going to play the game anymore, but
Okay. Spoiler alert.
when you rest out in the world and you go to sleep, you don't actually like repatriate, but like your ka leaves your ha, basically.
Okay.
And you can swim around in the world and you can make connections with other people that have rested in that area. So that way, when you make those connections, the next time BTs come at you, there's like these white souls that come out of the ground and throw like weaponry, med kits.
I've seen that. Yeah.
And they just come up out of the ground and they throw them to you, and then they like go back in.
I've only saw that during like the boss battles mostly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as you make connections, like the more collaborative you are with the game, the more help you get from other players. And it's like kind of like random and kind of like when it can help you, but like, dude, there are some fucking clutch moments that, like, if I hadn't made connections, hadn't donated to a bridge, like, anytime I saw raw materials out in the field, I'd just like grab them and then I would just dump them into a box, like wherever the next like thing that I saw, like, oh, like they're trying to rebuild these roadways, like. In the middle of the game, you get to, like, after you get to the Midwest, basically, there's a section, for me at least, because I was contributing so much, where I had a road from Central Knot all the way out to Mountain Knot that I could just travel on a bike and I would lose no battery, nothing. And it just go all the way out. Not everyone gets that in their game. You have to contribute to the game, and it'll like unlock that kind of stuff. And like, I ended the game with 47,000 likes by the end of it, and only I think 18 of them were from storyline stuff, because they break that down for you at the end of the game. They kind of give you like your overall like how you did and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that can totally change the dynamic of how you play. Where instead of like having to grind through it, it was
you can get some luxury going through the game.
Yeah, like when I was in the South Knot region, and like we had, and I will say we had an entire road from like the distribution center all the way up to Lake Knot City. Or
I had that one too. I contributed to that road.
Yeah. And it's where it's like you may be getting low on battery for your trike. And then you see the road, and like, I just have to make it there because on that road, battery isn't going to deplete, and I have safe passage,
and it'll recharge
all the way
bit.
up. Yeah.
So,
okay,
I had more likes than you.
Oh,
did you really?
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
I
you know why? Joe Gibbs.
The road.
Oh, did you donate
I built
a
the
lot?
entire road on my own.
Oh shit!
Wow.
Okay.
And
no wonder you have fucking 20 hours into the game. No wonder you have 20 hours into the game.
I got so sucked into that shit, like, and I hated every minute of it too. And I was just like,
really?
I would just catch myself doing all these fucking like meaningless stuff, and I'm just
not
like,
meaningless. It helps.
It's not though. It's not like, and it benefited me every single time. There was always like this immediate like, not serotonin release or whatever, but there was always something that was like, boom, here's something, and then every time you come by here, it's also going to help.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it's also going to help everyone else that comes by this thing.
And then you can start a thing and then be way off on like a delivery or something else, and then come back, and then you see it built up even better because other people have
they
come
like
by
upgraded
and,
it or whatever
and contributed because at least with from what they're talking about, there may be like little like let's call them little pods. Like these are little road building pods. They're just going to lay down asphalt. So you can build a road and start it off, and then you can have your road at like level 1, and then you can go away for 5 hours, come back. Well, now maybe it's at level 2, level 3, because other people playing the game.
It depends, though.
Have connected. It does depend, but I'm just trying to give them like a broad scenario.
Yeah.
So like other people who have passed through that you're connected with will also be like, oh, well, you need 500 metal to build this road. I'll give you the metal.
Yeah, I happen to have that like on my back right now. So here you go. Like it's less stuff for me to carry, and it helps the general cause. Like,
and there was enough material and packages and stuff around the environment that like. As you collected, there was always way more shit than you could carry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
And there was just places to deposit it all the time. So you were always like, that whole like, ooh, piece of candy like wasn't a bad thing because you'd be like, ooh, I'm going to grab that because there's a thing right up here anyway for me to drop it off at. Like I can be like, boom, boom, done.
Yep.
It's
I'll just
on my
dump
way.
it in there.
That's right.
I'll get some likes.
That's where it got me because it was like, oh, it's just this one thing, right? Where it only adds like a minute, right? And then you do it 300 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
And now you're
Yeah.
22 hours in,
Yeah.
in chapter
Yeah.
3, and you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, and you probably have like a max carrying weight of like 450 pounds too. Like,
Well, once you get those little floating carrier things,
yeah,
that's a game changer.
dude, the floating carriers are great. Also the different exoskeletons. I don't know. Did you guys get the exoskeletons yet?
Go from like power, speed,
Speed, and they have an all-terrain one because you end up in the mountains, like running through snow.
Okay.
Which both of the other two fail basically, and like the bikes are really tough. That's a really tough area.
Oh, speaking of tough, we'll talk about bikes in a moment.
Yeah, like I think so. That's kind of like the metagame layer of that stuff, where it's like, look, this is a community game. You're playing it single player. There won't be multiplayer
Unless
but
you yell.
Yeah, you can hear other players when they're around. Yeah, that's another thing. Like you basically yell into the void, and if someone else is in the area in their game,
They can hit a button to respond.
So, like, and then you exchange likes. You're just like, oh.
Your center pad, like like your trackpad. If you click it, the main character just yells hello, and then in the beginning of the game you don't hear anything. Like once you're a little bit deeper into it, you can just click hello, and then you just hear hey. It's like, where the fuck did that come from?
You don't see that. You actually see like somewhat of an outline of where that person last either rested or whatever. But like that's it. Like you see like one of like the chiral projections of
it's
like where they were.
It's a single player MMO.
I think it
really
shows you
in a way.
Their footpath too.
Yeah,
Like
you can see their footpath.
Like
and
it'll
stuff
be like
that.
here's the path they took, and then you could look at your map and be like, oh, that's how they got from this city to that one. Let me take a look at that route, because you actually have to like go into the map and like use the terrain and plan your paths, because like there's a lot of places you just can't get to.
Yeah,
like,
impassable terrain and like stuff like that.
You have to make sure you're carrying a ladder if you're going up a cliff, or like a rope to rappel down, and like you have to like plan all of this shit out as you're playing.
So you got to carry the necessary items with the cargo, and you want to like arrange your back so that like your cargo is like the most secure at the bottom, and if you fall you're going to lose tools, but you won't lose like your precious shit.
Yeah.
And then even when you reach those points and you set up your ladders and you set down like your guide ropes and whatnot, that will stay for other people. So that way,
just like the roads.
Once they get on like when Clark was saying in the story, like that network where it starts like linking cities and whatnot. Once you're on the grid, you can start seeing other things that other people had laid down too.
Do they only last for so long in these spots?
So it depends. So it's like when you start your game, it's kind of like you joining a server, right? And it's like, we'll just, for lack of a better term, right? So it's, let's say it puts you in a world with 8 other players. And it kind of just show, and they're like online or playing maybe, perhaps. I don't know how that part of it works, but it's like 8 players basically. So you see like things that those 8 players built in the region, and you can see them on the map. You can use your routes. So anything you built, they can see. Anything they build, you can see. But it puts you kind of all together, and it stays there until you log off.
Reload your game. That'll reset some things.
Yeah.
Sometimes
They also try to put you with active players. So like it's your activity frequency.
Yes.
So like me, where I was like playing the game like every day to try to get through it for this, I got in a very active server. So like I would go in and I would like drop like one of the road beacons where like, hey, I want to try to get a road that like extends from there to there, and then I'd like log off for the night. I'd log back on, and the road would be built because I had other active people around me that would just like, oh, let me just grab some private shit.
I'll throw stuff in.
Yeah, I'll throw some shit in there. Like I'm walking past, throw shit in, and then it's just like constantly building roads, ladder.
Now, I will say with that, there is, until you understand that is the way, not necessarily the way the game is played, but that's an aspect of the game. It is very confusing. Like it's not every single option or activity that you can do is cut and dry.
Sure.
Like I'll be honest, it took me a little bit where even like the first time with like the mules, which the mules are like the enemy carriers where they have
They're
little
like grunts.
beacons up. So if you
They're addicted to hijacking cargo.
now that's DHL. So
Yeah, that's DHL.
So once you get into a certain area, they have like little beacons.
They're addicted to it.
Yeah.
Like it's not like it's just,
They have beacons that go off that like will ping if you get too close, and then it'll see like, oh, there's like a package in transport, and then that's what they're coming for.
They will hunt you down for your cargo.
Basically, like the weird way they explained it is like the mules were like once like drug addicts and shit like that, and since they can't get their fixes anymore, they're constantly seizing packages to see if they can find drugs. So they're like a bunch of drug addicts trying to seize cargo. So
They're
addicted
kleptomaniacs.
they're addicted to taking shit.
Yeah.
They're
So when there was the option of like,
It's dumb. It's real dumb.
Yeah.
That part.
That was
I
a
just
little
like,
far
that
off.
one's that's kind of
you
stupid.
have to have like
Enemies
something
that
else
aren't
there.
BTs.
Right.
Yeah.
But at least when it was saying, oh well, you can repel their signal.
Yeah.
It didn't actually say how to repel the signal.
Oh yeah, it did.
And
Yeah, it did.
I did that part last night.
Yeah. Eventually, I
it was
found,
like
I
you have
found
to
in
like
the cliff
time it and
note.
shit.
Yeah, I found in the cliff note. It's like, oh, send out your own pulse and then come back. I'm like, oh, that was a game changer right there. Where it's
Yeah.
like I'm riding through on my trike, and then I see like the little flash. I'm like, oh, bloop, and then send out my signal to dispel theirs. But
Yep.
not everything is necessarily spelled out and really. Not that it has to be, but I did find some techniques, or at least like when it would give the hints, wasn't always clear, and that took a little while to realize, oh, this is what I need to do.
Yeah, so that goes into something else that I have had a problem with this game. So the menu was absolutely ridiculous. Harry mentioned the glossary earlier, right? Where it was like, because there's so much going on. There's like,
much.
sorry, I had to look up the trike real quick and make sure it wasn't like a tricycle that
No,
you guys
no,
kept
no,
referring
no,
to.
no.
That's why it's
It's a light bike.
Yeah,
basically.
I see. Okay.
It's
Reverse
basically
trike.
out of a
Sorry, the image I had in my head every time you just hear that squeaky, 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 squeaky.
I'm on my
reverse
green
strike.
machine.
Yes.
but yeah, so the menu was absolutely ridiculous. And again, I don't know why game developers don't do this, but really a clear all notifications button is fucking needed for these games.
That would be
Yeah,
great.
that would have been nice.
Because, as you mentioned, Harry, there's a lot fucking going on in this game. And there's emails in this game. There's data points in this game. There's manuals on how to do shit in this game. And there's so much of each of those things that, like, you'd end up clearing... like, you'd play for, like, an hour, and you'd have to clear, like, fucking 20 notifications.
Joe's the Goldilocks of menus.
No, like...
Those
Elden
things
Ring
do
had
hear-
too little.
I'm just
Stranding
saying,
has
like-
too much. I'm just fucking with you.
God,
I
Chloe is going to get stabbed.
I don't mind the menu.
I totally agree with you that there is a ton of shit in this menu, and it's like way overboard. I'm just fucking with you.
I don't want to see the little notification bubbles. Like, you have something you need to clear. I'm like, no, I don't.
It got me at the access terminal every single time when
Dude.
you're in the private room, and you're just like, oh, what's here? Do I have like a job that I have to accept here? And it's like,
Oh, that fucked me over before. Because if you look at the bulletin board, it triggers, in most cases, it triggers the cutscene with Clifford.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So I went to the Access terminal. I picked up a couple of orders. One was a time-based order. Oh. And I went downstairs.
Oh, no.
And I was good. And then I accidentally hit leave instead of to look at the board.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, let me go to what's the notification? Let me go to the board. And I hit leave on accident. And I was good, right? And then I went back into it and I looked at the board. And since I looked at the board, it passed time, which made me automatically fail the order.
Oh, that sucks.
And I was like, what the fuck is this? Because it doesn't warn you at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like a, hey, are you sure this is going to like, this might fuck you over. Like,
It seems buggy. That seems like a bug. You know what I
was
mean?
like-
Like something that just got overlooked. So they were just like,
oh, man.
yeah.
I was so salty about that. I was just like, what the fuck?
Dude.
All right, before we get too far in, Harry, any questions so far?
No. My biggest was the tricycle.
Okay.
I worked that out for
I
myself.
still want to come back
So-
to the vehicles.
The hardest deliveries in the game. Have you guys had to transport any of the antimatter bombs yet?
No.
No, not the antimatter. There was the Vox or the Vax,
Yeah.
whatever it was, where if it got damaged, it would just blow up, and it's basically a bad time for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's antimatter bombs that you have to take later. Mm-hmm. And you have to do one.
Is that
where-
after all the timefall shelters start showing up that you can build?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And you basically need like 4 sprays
Mm-hmm.
and the antimatter bomb, but the antimatter bomb is an XL package, so it's like your whole thing.
Yeah. It's like, you can carry that and like maybe a ladder.
Yeah. But you need the container sprays basically. And you have to do it over the mountains where you slip, slide, fall, everything.
Oh, fun.
You can't you basically can't deliver them on a trike cuz if you hit 2 bumps it just explodes
Oh, nice.
and it creates a void out basically.
It's really easy to drive those. So,
They're tough to drive sometimes.
Wow,
They're
thanks for
super
killing the
tough.
joke.
But yeah, the bombs are one of the worst things to transport, and it's like the only times really that I was like dying consistently on something. I was like, fuck, god damn it.
Payouts usually worth it for a lot of these, or they just feel like, oh, I progressed a little bit.
the
Well, if
payouts
you
were
think
almost negligible
Yeah.
because you were finding so much other shit along the way anyway. At least that was the case
Yeah,
for me.
it's not really the rewards. What you're trying to do when you're like delivering the packages is you have basically like a 5-star different skills.
It's a rating.
Like
like
ratings. And if you get your ratings up higher, you'll get like better grip strength, or you can
better stats.
Yeah, better stats basically.
So you're like an Uber driver.
Yeah.
Give me 5 stars on my delivery.
Give me 5
But, like,
stars
likes
and I
and
get
things like
less
that.
tired. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time you make a delivery, you get like a rating, like S tier. It's like the best.
Yep. You get like more stamina and stuff like that, and
So
Things like that.
that's
So-
kind of your character building by doing deliveries well.
So it's like a leveling system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like so at every delivery has a criteria that you need to meet. So within having to like traverse over mountains where you may fall down, and if you fall down you lose your cargo gets damaged, or the timefall rain where it speeds up
Degradation.
degradation. Like maybe some are deliver the cargo with 50% or less damage, or there's some cargo where extremely fragile you must carry in hand, which means you cannot use a vehicle, and you literally have to hold like L2 the entire time that you're running.
Like
And-
L2 and R2 control your hands. If there's something at your feet and you hit R2 and you hold it, you just reach down, you pick it up, and you hold it in your hand until you let go of R2.
And then you run into the BTs or the spirit things. So, like, if something's coming close to you, you have to put down your package, go into your menu, find, like, your gun to, like, either, like, neutralize or destroy it, take care of that, and then hold your hand over your mouth because you can't breathe around the ghost things, or they sense your breathing and like your warmth, and like if you're breathing around them, they will just be like magnetized towards you.
yeah.
So you have to crouch, hold your mouth, and kind of walk around a little bit And
The
then
longer you hold your breath, though, it upsets BB, and then it goes back to the
it's
whole
a whole
your-
thing.
it
It's a
messes
whole
with
thing.
your
But
stamina.
either way, the deliveries have certain criterias that you have to meet, and as long as if you meet all of those criteria within a certain range, you get a good rating, and then your stats go up. If you fuck up, either a bad rating or you just fail, depending on the mission.
they're just like this thing that you just delivered is like basically junk that you gave me now.
There's a lot of little nuance that goes into it. Sometimes
Do you still get experience even with a bad delivery?
Yeah,
Certain aspects,
you do
will go up.
Yeah, as long as it's an acceptable delivery, because it will just outright fail you.
Yeah,
but-
sometimes things get destroyed. Like sometimes things are like used or destroyed, and like there's differences between the two.
But usually, as long as you make it there and it doesn't say, you fucked up before you get there, you still get some sort of experience. You just have a hologram person pop in like, this has seen better days. All right, let me give you this thing.
All right, you want to talk about your trikes?
Oh, yeah, the vehicles.
Yeah. Okay. So there's the trike, right? Which is like it's a reverse trike, 2 wheels on the front sometimes, right? If you go to
Yeah.
the high speeds, it basically pulls the 2 wheels together. You have a single wheel in the front. so
Yeah,
you
it's like
can-
a light bike basically.
Yeah. But they separate when you start to drive slow for stability, I assume. But they don't turn very well while you're actually moving. Like if you're like driving, the turning radius is dog shit. You couldn't drive down the highway that you build at full speed and stay on the highway at all. In certain sections.
Certain sections,
Certain,
maybe.
I mean,
You need a plan for your turn because it's not a tight
yeah,
turning
yeah.
radius. It's
Yeah.
wide. So instead of being able to go on maybe 50-degree
you
angle,
gotta hit
you're
the
like
apex,
85.
perfect.
Yeah.
Oh.
You're like, all right, go to the outside, cut the inside corner, and
But
that's
at least
that's if you're sprinting with the car. Like basically that's if you're boosting.
boost.
If you're
Yeah.
boosting,
you have you have cruising speed, and then you have
like boosted.
we gotta
speed.
fucking go speed. So and it's adjustable, but I will say the vehicle
It depletes the battery on the car quicker
The
when
vehicle
you boost. So
controls
that's-
are fucking atrocious.
Yep.
God forbid you hit a fucking rock
it's
on
usually
a trike.
just over.
It's
God
like
damn
you
it.
hit it and you're just going. There's been multiple times where I'm trying to jump over a stream because you can jump your vehicles. Don't get too far into that.
Yeah.
You can jump your vehicle a little bit, and then if you jump up and roll back into water will completely fucking kill your battery, or at least deplete it very fast. So I'm there literally stuck between a rock and a hard place, and then there's a fucking little stream here, and I'm just back and forth. Although you can if you can manipulate the left joystick enough, you can kind of make your way back and forth, because it did register putting weight back on your back
Yeah,
wheel,
because you can do
forward.
wheelies and stuff too.
But
You can.
It didn't.
Kinda,
It didn't help much. The vehicle control was fucking garbage.
Sometimes it feels like that moment in Austin Powers when he's on the fucking.
Yeah,
the
right.
steamroller,
God.
it's yeah.
It feels like that sometimes.
Yikes.
I think the only time that I felt real good about a vehicle was I somehow managed to get one of those up into the snow-covered mountains, and when there's long patches of just snow, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because you're just cruising, you just hit some little bumps every once in a while. But getting to the top of one of the mountains, and I'm like, all right, I have 2 packages. It's literally a straight shot down this slope, and I was like, I got enough battery, gunned it, and just went straight down the fucking mountain with it. It was awesome. That's literally the only fun that I had. I want to say that I got pretty good with trying to climb with the bikes.
Oh yeah.
You can climb with them too. You can climb up mountains with them with really weird rocky terrain.
You gotta have some patience.
You have to have some patience, and you have to
Yes.
really be in tune with what you're doing.
I finally got there.
Yeah.
Last night, when I was utilizing some more of the jumping and kind of hit see where there may be a little bit of a lift in the mountain before you hit the rocks, and then it's all right, so I'm going to hit the lift, I'll pull back on the joystick, I'll hit the boost and then the jump at the same time, and then just whoop, right up and over. But
Yeah.
I mean, that is a very
They also,
steep
for
learning
some
curve.
reason, they give you the trikes at one of the worst places to drive in the game too. Like driving in the game gets easier as you get further away from that area. But like
That's
one,
stupid.
yeah, that one area that they give you, like right off the bat, they're just like, here's all of these jagged rocks around it. Here you go. Here's your
If
trike.
you're not on the road, it's like ridiculous.
Yeah, it's fucking impossible. Like right around there, it's really fucking annoying. But
Yeah.
Yeah, later in that central area, there's like a lot more like farmland-ish.
yeah,
area.
and then you're just like fucking cruising
Yeah.
around on it, and you're like, all right, this is acceptable.
Yeah.
But right when they give you the trike, it's just such a learning curve. They're like, here you go, fuckface.
It's literally like boom, oh fuck, like
Yeah.
every 10 seconds.
abrupt stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it takes a while to accelerate too.
It can.
Which made it worse.
Did you guys?
Sometimes.
Did you guys
sometimes
drive?
it does.
Yeah, sometimes.
Because every once in a while, it's like I backed up and it's like, oh, let me just try to move myself out of here. Oh, I'm barely moving. Phew, just fucking
Still
hits the
burn out.
boost. I'm like,
Yep.
I didn't even click the boost button, but all of a sudden, I'm just like flying at the speed of light.
Did any of you guys hijack one of the mule trucks?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Of course
oh
I did.
man, I was so pissed. So pissed. I got one stuck. So the way the mule trucks jump is like they have this huge suspension. So when you drive
a
through
hop.
water, it raises the whole truck up so it doesn't get submerged and there's no damage to it. But that's how it also jumps. So if you're in water, you can't jump.
Oh,
Very easy to get stuck in the water.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because again, the driving still sucks.
Yeah, I used it for a few deliveries, and I was like, "This is really cool," but like, all right, I'm gonna take it on this delivery. I got one stuck, and I was like, "This is it."
That's how I built the road.
yeah, that's.
I'm tired of
that's
this.
the
I was
easy
just
way to do
like,
it.
oh, let me just haul these 2,000 metal. Like,
Yeah, you can haul so much shit in the truck. You can just throw it in the back of the truck and just.
Now, Harry, do you want to hear about some weapons?
Do I?
I don't know if you do.
There's lots of weapons.
Because the main ones, obviously, you have like different type of guns that you get and acquire throughout the game, whether it be making connections with new areas or something else. But the very the very interesting ones, which does not surprise me for a Kojima game, is the ones that you can make yourself in like your little personal pod.
your blood bombs.
So not
bombs,
only
pee
do you
bombs,
have
poop
blood
bombs.
bombs, you have pee bombs and you have poopy bombs. So just to give
Classy.
you
Okay,
just to
basically-
give you full exposure here. So when you're in your personal area, you can look over at the shower and
see an ad
toilet.
sometimes.
And yeah, there's
I
ads.
saw the ad one time also.
Oh, I saw a couple.
Really?
Mostly, it was just
Yeah.
It,
You
it
do a
just
lot of
said-
showering with
it-
Norman Reedus there.
Well,
no, you just have to go into the fucking room all the time.
Norman Reedus did a lot of showering with Norman Reedus because the advertisement was for Norman Reedus. So if you take a shower, like basically it takes your like your own biomass and just turns it into weaponry. And you have an option of take a shower, go to the bathroom standing up, go to the bathroom sitting down. Each 3 of those options create a new weapon. And it just so happens, I forget what the one that for the shower was called, but the one for your standing up bathroom action
EX
is
0, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Or no, EX 0, 1, and 2.
Yeah.
One's the PP, 2
Yeah.
is the
When you
poo,
make
and
the
0 is
PP,
the water.
it's EX bomb 1. And then when you make a poo poo, it's EX bomb 2.
That's fucking stupid. I'm sorry. It's dumb.
Throwing pee and poop.
There's a lot
bombs.
of great
It's
moments.
just again, like I said, it's just another concept just thrown in. That
and
is that necessary? I don't know.
So-
That
You know
might
what?
be the one that went too far.
For comic relief, yes, it is, because as Morgan was watching me play, she saw that one. She's like, "Wait a minute, did it say it stored something in your locker?" I'm like, "Yeah, it makes weapons out of my mass." She's like, "So you're dropping bombs to make bombs to drop bombs?" I'm like, "Yeah, pretty much."
So basically, in one of the cutscenes, Sam gets hurt while he's out in the field, and he notices that one of the BTs like stays away from his blood on the ground, like won't go anywhere fucking near it, because he has like the dooms or whatever. They don't like the diseased blood, and that's their narrative reason for, oh, like, let's test all of your bodily functions, and they send you out on missions to test these different things to see what they do against the BTs, because they're like, okay, cool. So if we can get your blood, and then we can start synthesizing your blood, we can start making weapons for humans to fight against the BTs. So that's the whole concept of that, of why that is. But then the added bonus of it is like, okay, they tested it all of your different things all do different stuff. So like anytime you just use the facilities, we'll give you bombs. You can also just fabricate hermetic grenades, which are like blood bombs, and assault rifles that use like hermetic rounds.
blood bullets.
Yeah,
Blood
and then
bullets.
you start. Yeah, so basically you start carrying around blood bags to like start like transfusing blood,
And that's your
you're, like,
ammo.
Yeah, and that's your ammo.
Which is kind of that part's kind of neat.
Yeah,
I don't
that
know
is-
about
that is
making
kinda
Dookie
cool.
bombs. I mean, that's not.
There's a
it's-
lot to grasp in this game.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
We already know you're not going to pick this up, so we're just throwing everything. We're throwing shit at the wall.
Does anyone
and see what
else
sticks to
have
your
anything
face.
for gameplay?
well, no, I do have a question about
Okay.
gameplay because I didn't know if this was a legitimate thing for this game. So, is this like you get through the game, it's kind of wrapped up in a nice bow, or is this like, oh, it's heavy on the end game content and to play past the end credits on this?
So, you see credits roll. It's basically the end of the game narratively, and what they do is they just roll back time 2 weeks, and then they open it up that you can go back and do anything else that you wanted to do.
So okay, so
and contribute to the world if you just want to continue contributing.
which is just going back and just playing side missions and shit
Yep.
after the narrative. Okay, so,
There's up to 500 delivery missions.
I mean, is there a point where you can max out your building on all the roads, or is that just way too much?
It depends on who else is building the roads, I would assume. I mean, you could try to
If
build
you
them
so your-
yourself.
if you
your
self-build,
progress is
it's always
all-
there.
Yeah.
So your progress is always based off of somebody else's?
No, not always, but you could sit there and just try to grind all of that
It's
out.
whatever you did at a minimum, right?
Yeah.
So like if you built 3 sections of road, those 3 sections of road will always be there.
But
If
might
you
not
log
have,
in
like,
and
the
somebody
on-ramp
else
and
built a section that's attached to yours, then boom, you got another section.
yeah.
Permanently? Or is
No. Only
that-
because you're playing with that player.
That's odd. Okay.
Yeah.
It's an interesting system, it sounds like. It just
yeah.
it sounds like there's some flaws.
Interesting
Weaved in.
is a good word for it, and yeah, there's going to be some flaws, but only
It
'cause
just doesn't
there's
make
not-
sense thematically if it's there 1 week and then gone the next.
Well, Timefall.
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
No,
It's-
Timefall.
all right.
Timefall actually does degrade everything, even the stuff you build.
Yeah.
If you don't maintain it, it will be destroyed.
it will deteriorate.
Yeah. But they have like weather mapping and stuff that you can see like when there's going to be timefall in certain areas.
Oh yeah,
and
you
stuff,
can
and-
actually like kind of predict the weather, and it's like, okay, well, if I take this path at a certain point, I'm going to be in the middle of this timefall storm, and I have very important cargo that I can't risk being in anything that's going to.
So they worked maintenance into the game as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds a little tedious. Not having played the game,
It wasn't too
sound-
bad.
No.
Okay.
I never went back to a single one of my things, and they were always there the entire time I played the game.
Yeah,
so, like,
it degraded pretty slow.
It takes a really long time for them to degrade.
So is it like based off of your console's clock? Like if you were to boot up the game,
It's playtime.
Playtime.
Playtime, playtime on the server.
So it's not a what did the first State of Decay do? The persistent.
Persistent. No, it's not
Yeah.
persistent.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no, it's not persistent. Duck under a timefall shelter and move into graphics. Graphics. Right off the bat, I think this is one of the best looking games ever.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I would say it's right up there with a lot of the bigger titles at the end of the PS4 era. Like to me, it's right up there with Forbidden West, and it's right up there with Last of Us 2, as far as the quality. I only say that because the in-game engine, there was a lot of weird shit where some stuff looked like it was green screen-ish type thing, where it almost looked layered or something. The cutscenes were pre-rendered, so like take with them with the will. Like, I mean, you can look at the cutscenes on PS1 and be like, it's FMVs. Like, it's not actually the graphics. Like, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Kind
But
of.
the actual gameplay, like, did it look amazing? Yes. But to me, it's, like I said, it's right up there with Forbidden West and Last of Us 2, which are still amazing. I'm not saying it's...
Right.
I just don't think it's better than those either.
Yeah, and I did not get in when this was on sale with the PS4 version, so I said, fuck it, we'll do it live, and I bought the upscaled PS5
That's
version.
the version that I played as well.
I played on PC.
Gotcha. So I can't really, make a comparison, but I will say for this being, I don't want to say one of the few games that I got, that the PS5 game for. It is one of the few games that I got the PS5 game version of, and even with it not being built on, that's
On
hardware.
PS5, yeah.
Exactly.
Right. It's upscaled. It's not native.
Yeah, it looked very good. It looked very like the small face details of where you can actually see like
Pores and shit.
yeah, and like the emotion that's really drawn out, which I think really also stands out more so with the mocap acting. It like and like the rendering of the faces really stood out in that aspect. Now the environment, it looked really neat. I'm not going to say this is like 100% the best thing that I've ever seen, but it does look really fucking good. I'm not going to take anything away from them on that.
Yeah.
Like I think it's one of the better, like, best looking games that's out, but that's like including games like you just mentioned, like Last of Us 2 and things like that. Like I think those are some of the best looking games made this far into video game history.
It's right on point.
Yeah. I think it, went to bat with the best of them at the time.
Yeah, it makes sense when you said that they like, I mean, not that graphics equals engine, but like a lot of times it's related, right? But if they used Horizon's engine,
exactly.
like Guerrilla Games, like if that's true, then like you, when you said that during development, I was like, oh, like I could kind of see that.
Yeah.
Like, there were a lot of similarities as far as like, I don't know, I don't want to say art direction, but like scenes and the quality of the scenes looked very reminiscent of Forbidden West.
Yeah.
Kind of question, because I don't know too much about this, but so I know Square Enix, like a lot of their development time used to be like building their own engine for each game, and that usually was their hold up. Because once they got it, then they'd release boom, couple games right on that engine.
They still do, yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, they started using Unreal Engine. I believe
They built a new engine for all the remakes and shit. It's their engine.
Well, for Final Fantasy VII, I thought they were.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking Resident Evil, not Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Continue.
Okay. Anyway, it seems like more and more developers are starting to lean into Unreal Engine because I guess it's just easily accessible, and
It's one of the big ones.
Yeah. It's interesting because they used Horizon's engine for this, or did they make their own and just use some elements
So they started with the Guerrilla engine, and then they made so many adjustments to it that it's now kind of their own version of the Guerrilla engine. Like Guerrilla couldn't develop on Kojima's engine. Kojima doesn't develop on Guerrilla's engine.
No,
anymore.
that's fair. Again, I don't want to go on a huge tangent, but I'd be curious to know where the general marketing for video games is going. Is it more and more using Unreal Engine because it's just a huge time sink to develop
production? And you mean
marketing? Yeah. Or are there still like some freelance companies that just really are focused on building their own and making the game off of that?
There's certain companies that make their own flagship stuff, and then there's companies that it's widely considered that like Unreal Engine is like one of the best to use right now. It's one of the easiest, like that and Unity. They're the two.
Well, I know. I think there's like full trainings on how to use it as well. For
and anyone can download it. That's the crazy part.
I think it comes into accessibility.
Yeah.
To where it's like, okay, now this is something that I can at least obtain, learn, and kind of use this as like my entire platform, or maybe just as like a starter dough for like sourdough. This is my mother, so it starts here, and I can at least build a foundation off of this. And then if I go all the way, cool, this is going to be a delicious game. But maybe I take this and change the recipe a little bit and kind of make it something into my own.
So I'm sorry. This is me just not knowing enough. So I don't be mad at me for asking these questions. They might come off as stupid.
Son of a bitch.
Is there the possibility, if majority of games are using Unreal Engine, that they would have a similar feel because they use similar?
There can.
Maybe
depending on
physics.
Depending
They're
on the
using
game.
similar physics.
Most
right?
of the time, it's physics that you'll see similarities in games.
Okay.
What I thought was the most interesting, specifically about Death Stranding, is they used Guerrilla's engine and made, I think, a crisper version, especially with like the combat and stuff, of like Metal Gear 5 than what Konami had for running Metal Gear 5. The game, like when you get into actual like combat, like, and you're facing some of the bosses and stuff like that, and like when you fight Clifford in the game, and it's just like it's small person versus small person with guns. That felt more like Metal Gear 5 than it did Horizon. It was like snappier, it was quicker, it was like much more like on target, like real fast paced. Whereas Horizon is more of like the integrating of like the bow and all the different weapons. Like this was more focused on like gunplay, and Horizon's more of like the different weapons and stuff like that. So like, yeah, so it's just like it's a little bit looser. It's a little more broad of a spectrum that it covers, but like it's different. I thought it was interesting that they used Guerrilla's engine to make something that felt more like Metal Gear than more like Horizon. Having played both, it felt more like Metal Gear than that, but that's not surprising. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, do we want to yell into the void and see if anyone answers back into sound?
Audio.
Hello.
What if we just said no? Does the episode just end there?
Yeah, I think so. Well, thanks for joining, everybody.
That's the extinction of the episode.
Yes,
the
yes.
extinction of the episode.
We fell into the void.
Oh, one of my favorite ones was like, "Hey, I'm Sam," and then you just hear back, "Hey, I'm Sam too." It's like, oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So, sound. I think the voice acting was really well done. I have no complaints.
Sounds Norman Reedus.
Yeah, it does. It does sound like Norman Reedus.
Yep,
Yes,
sounds like
it does sound
Norman
like Norman
Reedus.
Reedus.
You can see that they only had him for like a small period of time, because like in a lot of like the cutscene interactions or when you made your deliveries, it's other people talking to Sam, but he doesn't say
Yeah,
like
he doesn't
anything
nearly.
back. He's just looking like,
Most of his dialogue is actually at the end of the game.
okay.
He kind of it's they specifically like mentioned in the game too, like Deadman specifically. Deadman and him get like closer, and Deadman's like, I've never actually had friends because like 80% of my body is like made up of donated organs, because he had like a terrible accident basically. So only like his brain is like his originally that he was born
My
with.
brain.
Everything else is like donated, that he's like slowly rebuilt himself basically. It's wild. Yeah, he like opens up more to like Deadman and like actually starts talking to him more, and like they like they're that whole like when they're talking about the conspiracy and stuff, it's not just one-way conversations, it's full-blown conversations.
Wait, so there's a
and things
character
like that.
named Deadman too?
Yeah, we
Yeah, I
talked
mentioned
about
that.
Did we?
It's Guillermo del Toro.
Okay. Deadman, Heartman, Die Hard Man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Nailed it.
Yep.
Yep.
got
Mama,
it.
Fragile.
Yep.
So here's where my initial impressions comes back. Norman Reedus.
All right.
The amount of times he has to grunt, moan, or sigh is absolutely fucking ridiculous.
It's a lot.
And annoying as fuck.
Well,
Like, and he did the same thing in the show where he was always just making. He was like,
Yeah, he
I'm
did
like,
that a lot in the show.
and
Yeah.
he does it in the fucking game. I'm like, it's a different character. If that's your character shtick in a show, it shouldn't go everywhere else.
every once in a while, we say, "Yeah, someone's happy."
Like,
Yeah, when he's talking to Lou.
BB's like, because every once in a
Oh,
while,
he feels him kicking?
Yeah, actually,
This is after you're soothing him.
Kind of, yes. Like a kick, or like you go through because people can put like little signs that if you like, everybody's boosting the community thing, and there's one where it's like a little baby face.
It's like a baby pacifier, basically.
Like in the heart, and you walk through and you just hear BB go, and then you just hear Norman go, "Oh, somebody's happy."
Certain signs do certain things. Like that one actually helps pacify BB a little bit, lowers its stress. There's one that's actually a speed boost if you're on your feet and you run through it. It'll actually give you like a burst of speed with no use of stamina.
Yeah. But no, it's I know it's sound, but I feel like there was a lot just put. It's like, it's Norman Reedus. I'm like, I didn't necessarily need him.
It's
like,
the same fucking character.
Yeah, and then it just ends up naked. Like a lot of times, I'm just playing and like I'm just paying attention, and then all of a sudden I go to Morgan's like, Norman's naked again. She just snaps up, looks. I'm like, you bitch.
I feel like he decided on Norman Reedus at the height of the craze over Norman Reedus.
Oh, probably.
And by the time that this had finally come out, maybe some of that has worn off.
For sure. He decided on Norman Reedus after PT failed.
Okay. Well, yeah. Because he still wanted to sign him up for a project, even though they had to like scrap all of that.
Yeah. So Norman Reedus was going to be in Silent Hill.
I don't know why he wouldn't return to the project, not under that name or whatever, but like similar concept
For PT?
Yeah, they don't own the rights over horror. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there's some rumors that
It might come back.
Yeah. They're talking about some new Silent Hill games coming out, and Konami isn't attached to one of them, so it leaves the door open.
I'm just saying, if for his studio to succeed, that's great. He has a hit title, and that they want to make like a, I don't know, are they planning a trilogy or just at least a sequel?
Yeah,
this point?
The sequel's in production.
I'd be curious to see his studio diversify into other IPs.
I imagine they will.
Yeah, you need to get started
I
somewhere.
They will. Yeah.
By the way, it's every once in a while I would forget about like the cooing from BB that would actually come through the controller.
And scare the crap out of you.
Yeah, because it was like because it started like every once in a while. It's like, oh, look at that, and then Morgan was like, "Did your controller just coo at you?" I'm like, yeah. No, it's BB, and it's like we already have a relationship. And then there's a point she was on the phone, so I was just on like a trek, like moving, so I muted the TV. I'm like, I can traverse this. That's fine. And I'm going, and then all of a sudden inside say, oh, fuck, that's right. You're here. All right.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
you're
right.
good. Okay,
I'm
cool.
holding you in my hands. Yeah. It's like like a weird little thing that they do with sound for the game that I think is interesting. Or like when BB's like tapping on the glass too.
Yeah. And you
like,
just hear
you just hear dunk dunk dunk, and it's like in your hands. You're like, what the fuck? But like, I thought it was interesting because like, you're sitting there, you're holding the controller like neutrally, and it's like around where BB is.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. It's just
it's a little immersive.
Yeah, it's a cool
almost.
little like immersive thing.
It doesn't happen too often, but when it does, you're like, it's a baby.
Yeah, it's a BB.
This isn't a knock on this game or anything like that. It's just in general. I'm surprised. So they had that in the PS4 generation, like the sounds coming through the controller, and they carried that over to the PS5. I don't think it's vastly improved. I still think it's like a shit quality speaker in the controller. It does not impress me much at all whenever sound comes out of the controller. I don't know.
It depends. Certain games it's okay, and some games it's just absolutely terrible.
Depends on what kind of noise they're trying to put through the controller.
Like Death Stranding, I actually think like they did it pretty well. Like I thought
okay.
But a lot of company like it needs to be low, very short sounds for it to sound good. It's like blowing out speakers. Like if you put too much sound through a fucking speaker, it just sounds like shit. And I think a lot of companies do that, where they're just like, oh, well, we have a speaker. They're not just like, oh, we have a speaker the size of a fucking pencil head. Like, let's treat it as such. They're just like, nah, put a goddamn song through there. Go for it. And it's like, they're like, cool, great. But
So, a funny note on that. One, I always turn that off because, as I've said before, I always play with headphones, so it's fucking...
It's useless for you.
Yeah, it annoys everyone else in the house instead. And I don't fucking hear it at all. So it's dumb. And oddly enough, they left that feature in on PC, and like when I went into options, it was there in PC, like because you can turn it off. Like the option to have BB sounds through controller was like there on PC, even though PlayStation doesn't support their controllers on PC. Like you don't get any of the extra functions if you plug your controller into PC.
Is there any third-party controller that has a speaker in it?
I don't know, but like I was surprised.
Maybe?
Like I've never seen that anywhere else, and I was just like, "Well, that's a fucking weird feature to just leave there."
You never know.
I don't know.
Unless whoever did the porting just didn't.
It's like, it's too much work to fucking take it out.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe.
it didn't. It didn't matter though, whether it was on or off. It came through my headphones.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think the other thing to talk about is the music.
the music itself.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I loved the music, right? It's a genre I love, right? But it didn't really fit the game for me.
Man,
It like there was some of those epic cinematic scenes where it would cut in and like really like and try to set a tone, right?
yes.
And that I get, but that was the only time it made sense. Every other time I was like, I don't like it doesn't have the same vibe. It was more jarring than
Well, what
anything.
music are we talking? This was licensed, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
like Major Lazer, Churches, like
Low Roar. There's a bunch of Low Roar songs.
yeah,
in
what
it.
are they? It's not like new wave, but it's like
alt. It's alt music. It's,
Yeah.
it's like alt indie music. Low Roar is a band from Iceland that he like met and fell in love with, and they were in the initial trailer. The song "I Keep Coming," which does make an appearance in this game at the end. When you're stuck on the beach, the "I'll Keep Coming" song is playing, and I thought that was cool because they used it in the trailer. It's all on the beach. BB's theme that is played when you are running him to the incinerator is just absolutely fucking fantastic. It is. Do not listen to it until you get to that moment in the game if you're going to play that game.
Got it.
But that song at that moment hit so well. I'll Keep Coming hit really well. And Bones by Low Roar, when you're carrying Bridget to the incinerator, was really well done because it's literally talking about like it's a song about death.
Yeah.
Your body is away with me. I think interlacing that music in there is really interesting because it's, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I've often thought about like, if I was like making a movie, I know like what songs I would try to put in like what places and stuff like that. And I feel like Kojima got to do that where he's just like, I can just blow some money on some licensing and I'm going to get like real ass songs for my game. And I don't know. I think it worked really well for a lot of them. I think there's certain points in the songs that you're supposed to hit at certain times, and sometimes songs were hitting while I was on a trike, and it was just like it only played
Blew
for like
past it.
yeah, just blew past it. Didn't get super into the song, but I mean, I have maybe like 6 songs from the game on my phone now to like listen to and stuff, and I've been listening to "I'll Keep Coming" literally since the trailer came out. Like,
Gotcha.
that song is fucking a staple for me.
Yeah, I really think at least like personally, I love the soundtrack from what I heard on that. It's like, yeah, keep it coming.
I think it's an awesome soundtrack. Let's get some container repair spray and spray our way into final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
I don't need to go for this.
Yeah.
no.
No, you don't.
Joe, go ahead. Final thoughts.
Oh man, I am really torn on this. I never intended to play this game, as I mentioned before. Started playing it, and I absolutely hated it. It was very difficult to actually sit down and play because in the beginning of the game, the minimum time frame that you could sit down with this game to actually successfully get anything done was like 2 hours. Like, you couldn't sit down and just be like, I'm going to bang out something in 30 minutes or an hour, right? Because there were so many cutscenes so frequently that it just like, you just couldn't do it. Like, it was like, okay, I can either pause this and just leave my computer running for a day or skip this and never see this cutscene again. And that was very difficult for me to get past because, like, I generally don't, like, have a lot of time. During the week, I get an hour of playtime usually.
Right.
each day. And it made it very difficult to play outside of the weekend. That was, the first little bit of the game. Once you get past that, it was mostly the gameplay. And I'm so torn because the story was very interesting. It was told in an interesting way. The gameplay was interesting, but I would have loved the story with different gameplay. I would have loved the gameplay with a different story. Like the sound didn't make sense for this game because they never talked about sound in the game, or music wasn't any other part of the game. It was just the licensed. It was very there was a lot of cool elements to it. I don't think that all of them were supposed to be in this game. I think they would have had better homes elsewhere.
It's kind of jumbled.
Yeah, it just, I don't know, it just didn't feel right.
Is it too much? Because how not like I was saying conceptually with the story, like there's a lot. It sounds like there's a lot of concepts when it comes to like the story elements. Are there too many elements elsewhere in the game? Not story, but
I don't know, because like I said, like the beginning of the game is like huge story, a lot of cinematics, a lot of shit going on, and then it really stops off, and you're just like, now you're only doing gameplay, and the gameplay can be very long depending on what you want to put into it, right? But even like trudging through the story stuff, the story doesn't progress nearly as fast as it did in the beginning, and it slows down, right? Even if you're doing all of the same missions at the same pace. So I don't know. Because at that point where the story really slows down, that's where the gameplay picks up. So you're not getting force-fed with a bunch of shit from both sides at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they kind of go like exposition heavy and then gameplay heavy, and then they kind of towards like, and then that gets you to like the halfway point of the game, and then they start to really like marry the two together towards the end of the game, where it's like a little bit of gameplay, maybe something new, boss fight, whatever, composition, more gameplay, like that kind of stuff. Like they definitely changed the pacing.
Yeah. And then the other thing that was like, you mentioned, you gave us a heads up. You're like, hey, when you finish the game, like you're probably going to need like a 3-hour session or whatever. And I was just like, that was actually demoralizing, because I was just like, I got to schedule this thing a week in advance for when I could fucking finish the last mission. Like that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like it just, I'm not a fan of that type of storytelling.
It's more that you would want to. There were stopping points, but yeah.
But yeah, like, yes, and the same thing in the beginning. There were stopping points, but it would have felt very disjointed, because it was like 30-minute cutscene, 4 minutes of gameplay, 30-minute cutscene. During that 4 minutes of gameplay, could you have stopped? Yes. It would have felt very weird, though. So, I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place with this game. There were a lot of aspects I loved. Like I said, I don't think they all belong together, though.
Steve?
I totally get where Joe's coming from. This game really, really started slow. And I feel like even just not even getting to like the halfway point, it finally felt that after a certain amount of time, it started picking up a little bit of pace, but it still seemed, I don't know, to hit like the main storyline points, like it still felt so distant to where it's not like, hey, I can just go mission after mission. There seemed to be like hurdles in the way, and not just like the gameplay itself.
Fetch quests.
That kind of, yeah. I mean, yeah, and it's as much as I am a Kojima fan and a fan of his work, this was definitely something very different within like the scope of his history, and it felt like I wanted to play more just to kind of be like, I know what you can do, so I really, really want to give it an honest chance. And that started happening, and this definitely will be something that I want to continue to play, and I want to finish, because mainly for the story itself, because he tells a fucking awesome story. It just seems like a little bit of a grind to get through to really learn the story. I mean, other than just hearing everything tonight, but I mean to experience it. I'm not upset at playing this game, but I feel like this is something that it's going to definitely take me some time to actually get through and complete, because it's not something where you can just sit down and knock something out in a half hour. This isn't where, it's maybe you can do like a little side quest in that time, come back, get it done. Cool. I feel accomplished. To really like drive it, it's not really going to be the, I don't know. It's not quite there. And where it's a good point about like the ending cutscenes, where it's like you need to put some time aside. And I do find that frustrating within games where it's like, if that catches me by surprise and I want to make sure I'm there and I finish the story. So, if I need to sit there for an hour to watch this movie, sure. But
that hour's not always there.
It's not always there.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that's also kind of par for the course over like the past 10 years. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I am also kind of conflicted with this game, and being a Kojima fanboy, I feel a little conflicted with how it's laid out. Still fun to play though.
My final thoughts. I mean, this is like Mr. Kojima's wild ride, basically. Like this game, there's definitely some issues with the gameplay, and there's some interesting pacing with the story at the beginning for sure. But overall, having gone through, played the whole game, and got to the ending, like, I was iffy on this game until the last probably 10 hours of the game that I played. And then I was like, oh, okay. Like, when everything starts dropping and all the dominoes start falling and you start to see, like, the grand scheme and, like, the puzzles solved, basically, like, I think this game is just an absolute fucking, like, tour de force for fucking Kojima. Like, I think it's an absolute masterclass in storytelling. Like, the amount of jaw-dropping moments that I wasn't really able to predict, but also felt a very, like, strong way about towards the end of that game, where they just started just, like, dropping hammers on stuff. Sam not being Bridget's kid, Sam being the person with the memories from BB and stuff like that. Like, that shit hits so hard once you've gone through the game at that point, that just, like, I think it's a absolute masterclass in storytelling, and I think the gameplay is okay, but this game is about the story. It for me, it's not about the gameplay. Let's bleed in some bullets and shoot out some BBs and get into the score, or BTs and get to the score.
We're shooting babies.
Shooting babies.
Shit.
It's a BB gun.
Ah.
The score.
All right. So instead of Harry's score, I'm just going to ask him, Harry, is this a game that you think that you would play after hearing us talk about it?
It does interest me. Mainly the story aspect. I think some gameplay things, the way you guys described it, just knowing how I react to games might drive me a little nuts.
Yeah, that's fair.
But the story sounds actually like really interesting. Again, I'm taking your word for it that it's piecemealed, because it did sound a little heavy on concepts.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just leave it at that. I don't know enough, but it just sounds heavy.
So maybe.
Having said that, though, like I'm kind of at a point in my life, it's really hard to commit to these longer games.
Right.
I feel like I'm just trying to cram so much into my life at this point that it's hard to even get a breath in. Well, sometimes, and that
I mean, take that out of.
Well,
the
no.
equation.
That's leading into, like, I might visit this some point. It's just when things kind of quiet down in my personal life.
Just not now.
Yes.
But maybe at some point. It
Yes.
piqued enough interest to be like.
But there's been many
check that
games
out.
where I come back to just years later. Like, I had always wanted to play Parasite Eve 2. I finally fit it into my life.
Yeah, fair enough.
It might be one of those.
Fair enough.
Cool.
I'll go next. For me personally, I think this game is a buy. If you really want something that is just incredible storytelling, and you have the time to fully enjoy it, I understand it's a long ask for the game, but if you have time for an incredible story, this is a definite buy. Joe?
Oh, man. This is tough. Like I said, I'm really torn. If I were grading individual sections, they'd probably be all over the place and make a fantastic game. But I'm going to give this a 50.
Steve?
Oh, quick question, though. What category would you rate the highest?
Story.
Story. Okay.
Yeah, not even close.
Which one would you rate the worst?
The gameplay.
Okay.
Even though there were aspects that he liked.
Yeah.
It's still I would do the
As-
same thing. Like
Yeah.
if I had to weight it, it's the same
Okay.
thing.
Okay. That's eye-opening. I'm sorry to...
No,
No,
that's
that's-
okay. I think this definitely did, despite like the comments I had in my final thoughts, this really drew me in enough, and I'm gonna give this a B.
Oh,
Nice.
God. Shut the
Nice.
fuck up, Steve.
Nice.
I'll
like
never have the chance to do that again.
It's true.
So the way
Well,
you
except for
guys...
when we do Death Stranding too.
I'm going to give this a B-T.
B.
Steve, what the fuck?
The way you guys describe that, though, it really makes me want to see it as like a limited series on Netflix.
Yes.
Dude, this would
And
be
not play it as a game, though.
This would be
Give
incredible
me a 10
television.
episode series, and I'm good.
Honestly, have you ever seen Dark?
Yeah. We've talked at length about Dark.
Okay,
I was wondering if...
Dark is very conceptually heavy, like this. Like there's like with like the time stuff, like what's going on in the nuclear power plant, all that shit. It's very heavy, and then at the end, it all kind of makes sense. That's kind of what Death Stranding is.
Okay.
Everything's chaos. It's not chaos. The story is still laid out in a way that it makes sense up to that point, but then just like that end just kind of flips it on the whole thing on its fucking head, and you're like, what the fuck? And then all the dominoes fall, and you're just like, what? This is fucking crazy. One of the reasons that like the end of this game specifically is so long is that they go back and do the full timeline. Kind of like an explanation of the full timeline at the end of the game.
They give you the synopsis.
No, they give you like the key to unlocking why certain things are happening in Sam's life that connect him to all of the different things. All right, guys. Cool. Well, join us in 2 weeks for the next episode of
Side quest, the League of Scientific...
Yikes. Loser.
Yeah, it's Loser. Another episode of Loser.
Another episode of Side Quest Loser.
Oh, it's out in the open now. If you didn't get it, just look at the words.
Yeah. Another join us in 2 weeks for another Side Quest Loser episode.
Thanks, everybody. Love you guys.
Stay lovely.
Stay sexy.
Stay safe.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on social media and all streaming platforms at Superfun Podcast for more episodes. If you enjoyed the show, tell a friend about us and consider becoming a Patreon member for more exclusive content.